Finally, we have a different chairman CEO. It only took how long?
7 months of the Boeing 737 MAX being grounded. So this was a late Friday night announcement. They put it out after the market closed.
That's called taking it out with the trash.
Exactly, trying to sort of sweep it under the rug here. But they are taking away Dennis Muilenburg's chairman title, giving that to lead director David Calhoun. To your point exactly, why did it take this long? The language in the press release talks about enabling Muilenburg to focus on getting the 737 MAX in service. I would have thought that would have been the focus over the course of the past 7 months.
Calhoun's going to be breathing it down his neck now. I thought Calhoun was a CEO candidate.
He has been rumored for that role, but certainly he has
Does this increase those rumors now?
I think potentially. You know, there's been a lot of scrutiny over Muilenburg and how long he will be able to hold on to this job, given a lot of criticism of the way that Boeing has handled this crisis. Their communication has not been great from the very beginning. They've been overly optimistic about when this plane is going to return to service, and they've been proven wrong in those estimates. And so I think the real test is going to be the latest deadline. They said this plane is going to be back in the air by the fourth quarter. There's a lot of indications that that might not in fact be true. You have the airlines now saying we're not going to fly this until January at the earliest, and you have criticism from the European regulators saying we're not entirely convinced that Boeing has done everything it needs to do to fix that flight control system at the heart of these two crashes. So I think there's a big question mark there. But David Calhoun also is a very busy man. He's also on the board of Caterpillar, and he's still employed over at Blackstone. So we'll see.
Well, also, my question is, does this push the timeline back for getting the 737 MAX in the air? Like, as you said, if we're splitting up now the chairman CEO role so we can focus exclusively on getting the plane back, that to me says that their deadline fourth quarter is not going to happen.
Right. I mean, it does raise a lot of questions about that if you're making this split at this time. I do think you also have looming in the background Muilenburg's testimony to Congress and a desire to sort of not make it look like they're kowtowing to any type of pushback that we might see from lawmakers. So I think they're trying to get ahead of that and also potentially increase scrutiny from the FAA. We had that report come out last week, the review of the FAA's process, showing that they just didn't have the resources or expertise to properly evaluate this plane, and that Boeing put undue pressure on its own employees.
So is the issue that it's taking this long, is it more because of how he's been communicating with the regulators, or more how he's been communicating with the pilots and the airlines?
You know, I think at this point it's a regulatory issue. I think, you know, to have these two workhorse planes fall out of the sky in the way that they did, I think the regulators want to make sure they really get this right before they put that back in the sky. But then to your point, there's a whole separate issue over how you convince the flying public to get on these planes again. And that's one that I think Boeing is very ill-equipped to handle. They're not a consumer goods company.
We have a producer in the control room who I don't think we could pay her enough money to get on a 737 MAX. And also, by the way, there's this whole WTO thing now. There's a lot of tariffs coming on Airbus too, then be retaliation. Like, that's all in the background. That's a macro issue. There's nothing to do with the 737.
Well, and the big question is China too. I mean, Boeing really needs China to order planes to make its, production goals, especially for those wide-body jets that are sort of falling out of favor in other markets.